And I went under and it was just like this world, this different world. But everything's left behind and you're in this new world and nothing matters apart from being under there.
Though she exudes calm, today's guest truly is a wild woman. Margaret Soraya is an artist, photographer, and true creative based on a remote Scottish island, the Isle of Harris. Margaret's creative work includes images, books, and paintings heavily inspired by the coast. She offers workshops and retreats, is the visionary behind the Creative Light Festival, and has an inclusive and supportive community membership called Creative Haven. To find out more about Margaret and her work, go to Margaret Soraya, SORAYA.com. Make sure to check out her podcast, Creative Soundscapes. Now on to a wonderful conversation with wild woman, Margaret Soraya. Let's go. So awesome. I was saying this earlier, Margaret, that it's so fun to talk to you 2 days in a row because we recorded up for your podcast yesterday and now we're recording on mine today. So fun.
No, it's just brilliant and it's just so lovely to meet you as well. It's I've been wanting to talk to you for a long time actually, so it's nice.
Well, awesome. Whenever I listen to your podcast, I need to go and meditate or something because your voice is so calming. I feel like and I have a tendency to get like loud and excited. I'm like, is this going to be like a yin yang kind of a conversation?
See, I don't know that I'm doing that as well. It's funny because people say that and I was like, it's like, oh, really? I didn't understand that. And then sometimes when I listen back to myself, which I do now, I kind of understand it. So it must just be a natural thing.
Yeah, it's just the way you are. It's so
Yeah.
awesome. First, correct me. How do you say your last name?
Soraya.
Soraya.
Soraya, yes.
Okay. All right. Well, I will make sure that it's Margaret. We're here with Margaret Soraya. This is so fun to chat with you. And I have been following some of like your experiences going out on the water and the evolution of your podcast and some of the things that you're doing, your move to Isle of Harris. And I love this like calm. And in fact, you gave me 3 of the emotions that you feel, which are calm, release, and joy. And I see that like you can see this in your photography and now your art because you paint, which I'm jealous of. But, and I think that really shows. I think you just are like what you see is what you get, including in your voice. I think all that resonates in your voice too.
But it's funny, isn't it? Well, it's not funny actually, because it's not a coincidence, is it? Because I think that we look and we behave like our photography. And when we do, that's when we really get into the place of like real authentic creation, because we are essentially our art, aren't we? We're the people behind it. We become, it becomes an extension. So you find that in photographers that are, finding this place of contentment, that have found a way to express themselves so well and so naturally and authentically that they do look like their photography. Does that make sense to you?
Yes. So I'm either wearing black or I'm wearing all the colors. So I don't know what that says about me. Maybe this is why I called my podcast Wild Women in Photography.
Yeah.
And yours is Creative Soundscapes.
Exactly.
Right? And what a beautiful thing it is to create things that feel so authentically us that like, in fact, I just released my first guest episode today. And when I released it, I like went and, I always go like give it a listen on, like Apple Podcasts or something like that, just to double check.
Yeah.
And when I heard it, I was like, oh my gosh, this is so fun. And it's so great to like love even if it's not my photography, to like love something else I'm creating, Yeah.
It's like when you love your own work, isn't it? And I always think
Mhm.
it's a real shame that not many more people say, "Oh, this is my photograph. I love it," and a lot of people are kind of they don't feel it's they're a bit reticent about going forwards with it, or they think they see the imperfections in it. I think when you get to that place of real contentment with yourself, then it sort of naturally follows that you love your work, and I suppose the more in line it is with your values and who you are as a person, that's when it starts to all sort of come together. And it's probably taken me, well, many years to bring it all together, to have the life that I'm leading now, to have the I think is the word is values for me. So values are a really big part of my creative thought process, and really considering who I am and what I want in life, what I put great value onto. And I think that's where we're really getting in tune with ourselves and our
I love that. So now I like some of I'm thinking about my own values actually, because
yeah,
I think when we listen to someone else talk about it, we kind of have this
yeah,
like, self reflection. I think one of
that's
my
right.
values is is this a value? I like to have fun, but not at the expense of like the other things that I value and prioritize in my life, right?
Yeah,
I really value my personal relationships, like my relationship with my husband. Uh, I value, I guess it's a lot of relationships, my relationships with my friends and, uh, relationship with myself. And if I'm, I guess it does depends on, how I'm having fun. But I tend to be like, let's go on this road trip. Let's do this. Let's do this. And I really have to build in time to have a pause and make sure that okay, when I'm planning something
yeah.
that I'm building in connection time with my people or, whatever else that I need at the moment, like my physical health and whatnot.
Yeah, and just as you said that, when you said fun, I was like, yeah, that is so. When you're looking at you look at you as a person now, and I don't know you that well, but I know you enough to be able to read you slightly and realize that fun. And when you connect it to like the name of this podcast, Wild Women, that fun, that's just totally you. So that is definitely one of
Totally.
your values. But I wonder then, maybe connection is also one. So you've got those. We've all got different types of values in our lives, and actually one of the things that I really think's really valuable, and I often, well, I know I'll always get, if I'm coaching anybody or in my community, I will always do an exercise with the photographers, asking them to think about what their values are and trying to distill it into three. So if you can go away and think, well, what are my three top values? And actually, mine, I couldn't really get it down to three, so I had four. You could have five to start with, but the now you get, the more in line with whatever it is that you're producing, the way that you're living, it just comes together. So, for instance, I'll give you an example. Mine are I've got quiet, stillness, nature, and kindness. So that's four there. Probably next year I'll take one away or maybe put something else in, because we all evolve, right, don't we? So, but I think that if you can start thinking about that and then building what you're creating in your life and in your art around those values, and you're getting closer to you as a person and the way you're living and the way you're creating.
That's so good. And I think it's so good to be able to because we all have different personalities and we do all value different things, which is why we all create so many different,
Yeah.
we all create different art. And that's just so beautiful to witness all of the humanity. And we all need each other, right? Like we all need each other because we all do different things. And that's why this is fun for me, because I get to connect with people doing all kinds of different things and bring that to other people. Yes, one of my values is connection. I think
So it is.
that is true. That is so true. Okay, I'm looking at our little chat that I sent you. Okay, so one of the things that I value is my emotions and paying attention to my emotions. And that's what I like to do on this podcast is talk about some of our different emotions that we felt in different experiences. And doesn't have to like look like any, certain way, but you gave me three. So you gave me release, calm, and joy. And actually all of those are reflected in the values that you just sent me,
Yeah.
which is awesome. So what do you want to start with? I'm just wondering. You have a little list of experiences.
Well, so I mean, the two that I've put there, calm and joy, are probably the more joyous side of things. Release. When I wrote release, I was trying to think of a one word for that emotion, but I think I was trying to say release of emotion, and that can
Mm,
be. I was thinking of it in a negative way, in a negative emotive state. So
mm,
I just know that when if I hit any struggles in my life or any bad times or anxiety, whatever it is, first thing I'll do is I need to pick up a camera or a paintbrush or anything. It doesn't really matter. It's often a camera because that's my easiest way through at the moment. But that's definitely so important, and it's probably where my journey started. So we start.
So, so how does that relate to that experience of your like this long exposure? Like, how does that work for you?
Yeah, so you asked me to relate that to one significant time that I was I'm photographing. How does that go together? So
Hmm.
um, I it's actually a story that goes back quite a few years, and I had a terrible marriage. Basically, it was awful, and I managed to get out of it when I was about 35. I'm laughing here, but it was quite traumatic at the time,
I
and
get it. I
yeah,
mean, I
yeah.
haven't, I'm not in a terrible marriage, but I do understand that we get into these situations. So, yes.
Yeah, and all I think all divorces or split ups or breakups, whatever, they're really they push us to the limits, don't they? And we're always searching for when things like that happen. We search for a meaning or an outlet or and for me. It can go either way, can't it? I mean, we can go and start drinking or release it in a bad way. Now, for me, it was I reached for the camera and I was in a situation at one point that I didn't know where to go. I lost my home and I had two young children at the time. And I was in this state of distress and panic. And what do I do next? And so I managed to put the children I think it was to my mum, and I drove down to Cornwall because it was just in such a bad situation. I couldn't think straight. I drove to Cornwall and I went back to a place that I used to surf in Cornwall, and it was kind of like, okay, I need to get back to that somehow. This was long. This was a long time ago. This was when I was feeling like me. I was surfing. I gave it up during the marriage, and I lost myself completely. And so I went back, and I was sat in this hotel, and I was going, right, I had this list of places. Where am I going to go? What am I going to do? And I had a list. I had a list of 4 places to go, and I was trying to decide what to do next in life. And I'd taken my camera with me, and I went down to the beach, hadn't photographed for quite a few years, so it was a return to myself a little bit as well. Went down to the beach. It was really stormy, and I took a long exposure shot. And it was the waves were just coming in. It was so bad. The waves were coming in and then rolling away, and they left this stream of water. When they roll backwards, and the lines were amazing. And it was a beautiful image, and it was actually the start of the photography that I'm doing now. So I probably, when I look back on that image, it's the start of something, but it was a huge time of needing to release all those painful things that were going on in my life, and that is something that I still do when I need to.
This is so interesting. I think I can describe this. So remember yesterday when we were kind of finishing, you were telling me about all these things that you're doing. And I'm like, and don't forget to like be kind to your nervous system, right? Because
Yeah,
when we get stressed, we need to release that. Like, so one of the things that I do as a coach when I'm, talking to people, I'm like, okay, if you're stressed, I actually send these like a little like a list of things that we can do to kind of calm ourselves down. So this is just for everyone else. In our bodies, we have
Yeah.
this central nervous system. And when we get stressed or when we have these like powerful emotions like you had, right? Like this distress, it gets activated and we actually can't think logically.
Yeah.
And in order to be able to then think logically, we've got to calm it down. And I love that it sounds like you used your photography as a way to like tune into and calm your nervous system so that you could then think clearly. And then I have a feeling, this is just my guess, that you now use that as a tool to do that.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. So it's learning. It was a learning. It was something that I did intuitively. At that time, I wasn't thinking, "Oh, this is what I'm going to do to calm."
Right, right.
I ran away, basically. So I was running away.
As one should.
Yeah, yeah,
I think
exactly.
I seriously, I think you needed it. I think you had this like intuition that you needed to
Yeah,
get away and be alone and listen, like be in your head and listen to what comes next. And so you could figure it out.
yeah, absolutely. So I did it intuitively, and I guess some part of me learnt from that, and learnt that actually, that there are times when we all have times like this, don't we? Where it's just overwhelming, and that was a step towards the healing process for me. It wasn't. It was just one of the things I think. Yes, to think straight and then to go. Well, where do we go next? And as the years went on from there, in the coming years, I was facing um, bigger challenges, even more so than that, because of the way that things ended, because of our financial situation, and because of that I was facing some health problems, which were a result of chronic stress. So what you're saying is just so relevant, and I think these are actually problems that I'm still dealing with today. And so even on a daily basis, I think it's helped me to get through. So even though, so I think sometimes we look at people's lives, don't we, and think, oh, she's living the most amazing life, and I'm out on the water, and I am. I'm not denying that I am. But a lot of that is to do with the fact that I need to do this because I suffered from chronic migraines for about 8 years. It was so bad. I was pretty much having a migraine for 3 days and then having a day off and then starting again, and just dragging myself through the day as a single parent with two young boys, with no help whatsoever, and um, a devastated financial situation. So that's been like a 15-year recovery, I would say, from that day. It's been to this day now. I think it's just been recovery and healing, and a lot of that has come through the photography.
I love it. Uh, you can see that come through for you. Like, here's what I want to say. I was actually thinking, I know I'm not going to say that. Okay, but I am. I'm so proud of you. Like, we don't know each other that well, but I'm so proud of you that you have created this life that is healing for you. And it's a life that is very purposeful. Like you do a lot of things very consciously, and you're very aware of what you need, and you've created that. So, bravo.
Thank you. Thank you. That's a little bit emotional there.
I know I saw it. I was like, oh, wait, this is a podcast about emotions. So, you
Well,
know,
exactly.
yes, exactly. Okay. So, going along with the same thing, I see a lot of emotion like come through in your own photography, which is actually really lovely. Tell me more. I cannot pronounce this word.
Dundonnell.
Thank you. You talk about calm and having calm and being underwater because you do go underwater a lot. Like I know you swim and I know you photograph underwater. And so tell us more about that because I feel like maybe if y'all are stressed right now, if you listen to this calm, like her calming experience, it'll help you de-stress as well.
Yeah, so it was really nice to think back to this because it's really relevant at the moment because I've just returned to my underwater photography. Now it started when I was 19 or 20, and Dundonald is actually on the west coast of Scotland in the middle of nowhere in the Highlands of Scotland. And I went to Dundonald as a chambermaid. I just went for a summer job in a hotel. And I had a wetsuit because I surfed at the time. So we found these coves that were so clear, and the water's like the Caribbean, and you wouldn't believe it was Scotland. But on these calm days, you get this turquoise waters, and I was like, I wonder what it's like under there. So I bought these disposable. This was back in the film days, I would say. I bought these just little disposable cameras that you would get, and they were film, and you had like 24 shots. And I went into the water, and I just went underneath. I've never dived properly, but this was just a snorkel and goggles or whatever. And I went under, and it was just like this world, this different world. When you go beneath the surface, everything goes quiet. You notice the change in the sound, and it's like a new world. Anybody that goes under the water or dives knows what I'm talking about. But everything's left behind, and you're in this new world, and nothing matters apart from being under there. And there was some swaying seaweed and some shafts of light coming through, and I took these photos on this little disposable camera, and they came out quite well. I sent them off to be processed, and they came out quite nicely. And I still have them today. I've kept them all these years because they were very special to me. So I have this connection with that calmness, I suppose, that I felt. And it's taken me again. My journey's been quite long, and it's just been prolonged. But there's been threads that have always gone back into my past. So about 6 years ago, I decided I'd like to do the same thing. Although I didn't consciously link it to what I'd done when I was 19. So I wasn't thinking, oh, I want to do that because I remember that. I just thought, oh, I wonder what it's like. It's like over in the Hebrides under the water. So I started experimenting with the phone and then the camera, and then I started doing all this underwater photography, and I have those same feelings as I did back then.
I love it. I love being underwater. I don't go that often, but
Yeah.
I'm scuba certified, and it's so interesting to go down kind of deep. And it's just a whole other world. In fact, what's interesting is my husband and I were talking to our son. He's in New Mexico right now, and he was having a hard time sleeping. And my husband actually, so he's scuba certified too, but he does free diving and spearfishing. And so yeah, he like will practice holding his breath. By the way, I caught him holding his breath once, and I was like, is he alive? And he held his breath like laying on our bed. So there's nothing, like he's not activated or whatever, but it was 5 minutes. He held his breath for 5 minutes. And I was like, is that even like a real
Oh,
thing? So we were talking with our son who also would go out diving with my husband. And my husband's like, okay, put on this mask. It's a sleep mask where it helps you, it helps your eyes, just have complete dark. And he's like, and picture yourself diving, like you're going underwater and you have that calm of all of the noise gets quiet and you're diving further and further and further. And I loved that, just the imagery of it to help you do something like fall asleep. And I imagine you can do this too, going back to like you being stressed in your nervous system. Like you
mhm.
probably have this, you can probably picture yourself underwater, and that probably would immediately calm you down as well.
Yeah, yeah, totally. And actually, even being in the water for me
Hmm.
is one of my coping mechanisms for a lot of things, a lot of releases, everything's kind of intertwined. So the creativity and swimming it's all intertwined actually. So it's quite an important thing. So even just going into the water, um, and then creating as well, it just adds to that yeah, it's all of them. It's the release, the calm, and
Yes.
the joy. Actually, it's all rolled up into that. So I'm definitely where I need to be.
Awesome. Yeah. So tell us about that joy.
The joy, yeah. So the joy, I think, there's a couple of times in my life, and one of them was these huge, huge waves in Orkney, and we were visiting Orkney. We always go in New Year because it's a time when there's a bit of downtime, and it was kind of like I don't really do Christmas very much. I don't really care that much about Christmas. This is terrible to a lot of people. This might sound awful, but it's not really in my realm of my values, I suppose. It's just not something that I put too much energy into. So, but I do like to spend time with the people around me. So I thought, well, okay, how do we do this? How do I get to create and to be with my family? Why don't we go away to a place where I can create and we can be together at Christmas time and New Year, all at the
Wait,
same
wait, wait.
time?
Wait, I do this too. My husband he'll go, is this a vacation for all of us or is this a photography trip for you? I'm
Well,
like,
it's both.
it's for everyone, of course. Yeah. But it's what we do. We're like, let's go to this beautiful place and you're going to love it. And I'm especially going to love it.
Well, it just makes sense, doesn't it? Doesn't it make
Right.
sense that
Well,
then
yeah.
everyone's happy? Everyone's happy.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Okay, wait. Tell me really quick. Where's Orkney?
Well, it is in the north of Scotland, so the north, and a bit north. So you just keep going upwards. So yeah, it's quite remote as well. But it has you get quite a lot of big waves there. So when we go in the winter, the point was that we go in the winter because the waves are huge sometimes. And the time that I particularly remember was when the massive winds, massive waves, and I was out photographing. I managed to get away for the day because the ferries were cancelled because the waves were so big. And I'm just standing there and seeing these fast rollers coming towards me, and it's wild. It's really wild. It's really windy. I was having to lie down because the wind's too severe, so there's no point trying to stand up because it's dangerous. And it's just this joy of light and even the cold. I don't mind the cold, and just the joy of the landscape and the joy of what you're seeing in front of you. Sometimes it just feels. I suppose it's a gratitude thing as well. It's grateful to have witnessed it.
There's a lot of rawness to being in nature when you have these when you have powerful winds, when there is something kind of incredible happening, right? Like I've been on the dunes at White Sands when it's a huge windstorm. So it's not cold, but I mean, you have to wear goggles and you're like, as my camera, I have not had to lay down, so it hasn't been that powerful. That must be pretty powerful winds. And I might not have, I might be pretty sad because I don't like being cold, but um, like how amazing and powerful is that to just be there and witness it? Did you get good images that you like from it?
Oh yes, yeah, yeah, definitely. I have some really memorable times, but memorable images as well. So what's really nice is it's like capturing, isn't it? Capturing those emotions in an image so that it almost doubles the effect. So I suppose a lot of people say that you should just put the camera down and enjoy. I kind of disagree with that in some forms, maybe sometimes, yeah. But I think that when I capture something that I feel really have a particular emotion that's strong, and it doesn't matter what it is, which emotion that is, when I capture it, it almost triples the effect. Does that make sense to you? Do you feel the same about that?
Yeah, I do. And sometimes I will pause and just enjoy, especially
Yeah,
when I think it's especially when I'm not feeling like I have to make an image. Like I have my
yeah,
camera, but I don't have to, or I already made something and I'm like, this is enough. Like what's important to me is now having a pause and seeing, witnessing whatever it is in nature. It could be a crazy, awesome sunset.
yeah,
I tend to kind of just pause and watch those because for me, I guess I don't do a lot of sky in my photography. I don't know, but if I have, if like probably 75, 25% of the time I have a sky. And so I tend to more like enjoy or I'm photographing something that has a reflection of the sky. And if there's nothing that I'm interested in, I just want to enjoy
yeah.
the experience. And sometimes it does all come together. I can think of a couple of images that I have like that where I'm like, wow, this was incredible. And I also have something, an image to go with it so I can, and it takes me back there, which is really fun. I guess that's what makes our work feel so very personal. It's like I'll hold on to some of these images for myself for a while versus sharing them because I just want to hold them for myself. Do you do that?
No, I don't actually. I don't know. I'm quite I'm kind of, I suppose, I'm quite fast with everything, so I'll edit and output quite quickly. And I think sharing it when I'm proud of it, it kind of, I don't know. I enjoy that. I suppose it's not for. I've got to um, say it's not for validation. I think sometimes I just want to share my experiences with other people. Like, for instance, this morning, just as an example, it was an example of definitely calmness. This morning we had a really, really low wind forecast, and actually we don't get low wind here that often. So I was like, right, we're going out at 6 o'clock. I'm talking about me and the dog. The dog doesn't like to get up before 11 o'clock in the morning. So she was looking at me going, it's dark. I don't want to get out of bed. But I plucked her out and we went, and I've got a kayak down by the shore. So we went out kayaking and it was flat calm and the sun was rising and there was just like ripples, when you get this ripple kind of like just gently bobbing about. So I sat there, took my coffee out with me and sat there in the kayak for a while. And I wanted to share that with people because I felt so joyous, I suppose, about it. And it wasn't I did have a thought. I thought, is it showy offy by sharing this? Is it like, look where I am and look? But then I had a few people saying later, thank you for sharing that. You made my day. You made me smile at the beginning of the day, or I enjoyed it. Just calmed me down for a few minutes. So I've learned to get over that, and I think that the process of sharing things for me is definitely for other people. It's important. I think that they're seeing and hearing these things that sharing beauty is important and it's very valid. I don't know if that answered the question.
Well, it doesn't, whatever, it doesn't matter. But I mean, I kind of keep mine to myself for a little bit and then I want to
Yeah,
share. Right. So it's
yeah,
just, I don't know. I don't know what it is. I haven't quite figured it out, but yours sounds like gratitude. Like I'm so grateful I had this experience and I want you, I want you to see this. And it's not a show. I don't think it's a showy offy thing. I think this is like, I'm so grateful.
yeah. Gratitude is a massive thing for me. I think, and I think I think gratitude is the key to happiness. To be honest with you, I really think that it's as powerful as that. And I do feel grateful every single day that I well, I suppose every single day because we should really, shouldn't we? But I wonder if, the things when you face challenges and you've had lots of things go on in your life, I wonder if I've become more aware of gratitude, or maybe I've just practiced it consciously. So I definitely know how important it is. So I think, yeah, it's a big thing when you mention that word. Yeah.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think gratitude is such a key thing to feel when we're striving to be more happy and content with our lives. Because I think gratitude gives us, this is so not about photography, but maybe it is. It does. Well, there's so much wrapped up in what we
Yeah.
create, right? So many like emotions and all of the experiences all kind of get folded up and kind of jumbled up and create our human experience. So when we are grateful, we recognize more of I think the positive things. We see more of where we're successful and I think we see more beauty. And I think that's a great place to be. And I could think it's something great to feel even more often. And so if you can share that and you can share that with people in an image and they can feel it too, that's why we do a lot of what we do.
Yeah. And I actually think gratitude, I think it is. I think a lot of the things that we often don't talk about in photography is about photography. So gratitude is a huge part of it, should be a huge part of your work, because actually if you think about it, if you're grateful for things, if you're mindful, gratitude and mindfulness go together. So
Mhm.
if you are in that state of open awareness because you're grateful for it, you will spend longer, and you'll be more mindful and more. You'll look for things in a more gentle and unrushed way. And I think what you were saying earlier, actually, about what you don't share things straight away, but you'll maybe, or you'll maybe not take a photo straight away, or you'll put your camera down. That's more to do with enjoying the time. And I think that when we're grateful and mindful, we will enjoy that time. We'll be more open to what's happening, and we won't. This is the key. We won't be rushing to the next thing in the hope that the next thing is better. And that's where we can really get deeper with photography, because that's a lot to do with that's all bound up with the things that you talk a lot about, which is perfectionism and fear of failure and validation. And we're rushing to the next thing because is that better? Is that going to be something that's more acceptable by the photography community? So we're just going to rush on rather than sit and watch. So yeah, I think all of these things that we're talking about are very much to do with photography.
Absolutely, because it all rolls up into making our experience. Oh, this was so good. Margaret, I really appreciate everything that you shared and the time that you've taken to spend with us. I think we got a master class in how to be more content in life just now through photography.
Oh, that's lovely. It's just lovely talking with you. It really is.
All right. Well, I always I can never remember how I want to close out these conversations because what I always feel like is I kind of just want to stay and linger in the conversation, but at some point I have to end the podcast. And so let me do this. I'm grateful for you and for your work and for all the things that you shared. And I wish you all the best with your photography and all the things that you're doing, your retreats. And we have links in the episode description for all of the things that Margaret's doing and your painting. So, are you? I'll put a link to Sean Tucker's YouTube episode in the episode description, so you guys can see some of her paintings that she's doing. I told you I'm very jealous. So,
Thank you.
all right, everyone. See you next time. Bye. Come with me on my next adventure. Be a wild woman and join me on one of my small group photography escapes in places like the cypress swamps of East Texas or White Sands, New Mexico. Go to wildwomanphotography.com for all the details. While you're there, you can check out featured wild women, episode transcripts, and more. Oh, and I'd love for you to support this podcast and all these incredible wild women in photography by leaving a review or sharing with a friend. Thank you so much for listening.